Yeah, g'day, Fight View 360 fans. Your old mate Big J here, and today we've got the privilege of speaking to one of Australia's most prominent 154ers, Dennis Hurricane Hogan. Dennis, welcome back to the channel, mate. How you been?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Yeah, been going well, been training hard and getting ready for this next fight.
Yeah, well, your next fight is an IBO eliminator against another prominent 154er, Wade Ryan, who's been going great guns of late. He's on, I think, a 4 or 5 fight winning streak. What do you like about the fight, mate? Because I was very excited when I heard this, that you're on the Nikita Tszyu undercard, and that'll be, March 2nd on Fox Sports.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So what do you like about this fight, mate? It's a brilliant opportunity for yourself.
Okay, yeah. I mean, look, it's just one of those things where, we're at a kind of stage there where, I've come from from the world stage, and I'm sort of doing a rebuild and having another a shot at the title. And Wade Ryan is in a similar position, whereas he wasn't getting a big winning streak up, and I had seen that a couple of his fights, one that I'd been at, was close. You could have nearly given it to him. So, he was definitely on the wrong side of a few decisions, and he had a bit of a bad patch. But he's worked his way back up to a good position as well. So this is his probably first time to be getting up to something of this standard and caliber, and then I'm sort of trying to get back. So I'm fighting for the right to sort of hit those goals finally, and he's looking to get up for the first time. So it's very, very interesting. Wade is a fighter himself. I know that he's going to be very awkward. Southpaw likes to get into wars. But, we just have to get a good game plan to sort of nullify that and for me to box my fight. And really, it's as simple as that, although it might not be as simple to execute.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very interesting fight, and the fact that the IBO belt is actually vacant at the moment. There is no IBO 154 champion. So how do you think this fight's going to pan out? I mean, I think it's a 50-50. I can't really see advantage for either fella. Because, you've been at the highest level. Wade hasn't been there yet, but he's just kept on winning. He turned his career around with those wins that he's had. So I think it's a 50-50 shot. Or do you see a bigger advantage for yourself as you've been at a more high level, or do you think it's just 50-50 down the middle?
Well, mate, look who I fought, look who he's fought, and look at the level. I've only lost to world champions or world number 1. He's lost to 9 domestic level fighters. So I think that I don't know how anyone could see it the way you've just said it, to be honest, mate.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's why we ask these questions. So, yeah. I mean, the only thing I would say is Wade's just that tiny bit younger than yourself, but that's the only real advantage I see for him. Resume, you've got it all over him. But, that's the only real advantage I see is that he's about 5 years younger than you. So...
Yeah, well, I mean, the good thing about me and my career, the good thing about me lately is everything. We look at camp and look at recovery, and like I said at the press conference, thankfully I touch wood, but I'm injury free for the first time in a while too. So, the Dennis Hogan that fought Jamie Munguia, I believe was coming on the night March 2nd. So, I could be proved wrong, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, if the same Hogan that turned up that fought Munguia is going to fight Wade, Wade's going to be in a fair bit of strife. So, because you were at your absolute best in that fight, without doubt.
Yeah, but that's it, and everything's on track for that. So, you have to tune in and see.
yeah, and I can't wait to see it on March 2nd. So the rest of the card is actually pretty solid. You've got, Nikita Tszyu in his debut against I've forgotten who he's fighting, but. They've thrown him in with a 3-0, I think 2-0-1 fighter. I can't remember his name, but that's a good start for him.
It's the most unusual pro debut to top a bill, I tell you.
Well, that hasn't been done since Mundine switched over. I think that's the last person that is. Actually, I think Justice Hooney headed his bill when he did his switch over.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But that was a 10-rounder for a championship belt.
Yeah.
Like a 4 or 6-rounder.
Yeah.
Which would probably be following 12-round title eliminator. So it is strange, but No Limit seem to do different things in boxing, and all credit to them.
Oh yeah, I mean, they do. They really do showcase what they can at 154. Obviously, their number one guy is Tszyu, but they always give fair chops to the rest of you 154 guys. So I mean, Tszyu versus Inoue was a pretty solid card. It showcases the best guys at 154. Yourself, Joel Camilleri, Wade. So they're always out there showcasing the best talent that we've got in Australia, and you've got to give them credit to where credit's due.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I can't help after being offered the IBO eliminator, I can't help but feel that they had all the super welterweights on there to see who they'd match Wade with. But anyway, it's all good. It worked out well. I was very happy to get offered that fight for what it is, and it certainly gets the leg back in the door to work our way back to the top. So.
Yeah, definitely, and I think the two most deserving guys for an eliminator of that stature is yourself and Wade. There's no doubt there. So you've been at the absolute top. Wade has, I think, earned his right with defending his belt. I think at least 3 times. So it makes perfect sense, and I think it's going to be an absolute cracking fight. And I can't wait to see it. So
it is going to be a cracking fight. He'll want to try and get me into a war, I believe. So if that happens, it'll be sparks flying.
Yeah, I can't wait for it personally. So has there been any indication? I know boxers don't look past their opponent, but has there been any indication that if you win, do you have any inkling of who's out there that you might be fighting for the vacant title?
Mate, there's been nothing like that. No. Look, I can't help but feel that maybe I'd be in a power position. Back a couple of weeks ago, we just kind of looked over it, and there's a few names there. So I don't know, and I don't know if No Limit would. I'm sure No Limit would probably jump in and try to get it on their card and maybe bring someone in. Sure, it would be good to be an A side for it, but these are all things that haven't been spoken about yet, and you could guess a million times, but you wouldn't know until it happens. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just checked the IBO rankings. Yourself, you're at 26, Wade's at 39, so there's a lot of names that are in the pool for a shot at that vacant IBO belt. So I suppose if you get the opportunity, first come, first serve. So.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, I'd imagine whoever was to win this fight would then be in the negotiation with IBO to pick an opponent. Would I be right? Someone in the top 5 or 10, I suppose, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I had a look at the top 5. Tszyu's number 1, and I think Sergio Garcia's there. Indus Erickson Lubin's there, but those guys are all tied up with other bodies. Erickson Lubin's got a face for Sebastian Fendora. Tszyu's fighting Terrell Gausha. We'll talk about in a second. I think Sergio Garcia's not doing anything at the moment. So most of those guys that are above you are committed to other fights. So. Or they've got other paths, like they're number 1 contenders with the other bodies.
No, I understand that. No, I get it, and so I'd seen a comment online saying, why doesn't Tim? Why wouldn't he be getting a shot at this? It's like, well, he's worked his way into mandatory for the WBO, and the WBO is going to be unified with another 3 belt soon. So Tim is right to follow that path right now, because literally he's next, but he does opt to keep fighting, which is very smart, because an active fighter, a busy fighter, is at their best. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got to credit Tszyu that he just keeps very, very active, so you've got to give credit where credit is due. And speaking of his fight with Terrell Gausha, we've looked at his record. Terrell Gausha has had a couple of cracks with the big time. He's had a fight with Ines Larry Laurie. He's had a fight with Austin Trout. He's had a fight with Erickson Lubin. Didn't win any of those. But have you seen anything from Terrell Gausha, and how do you think the fight against Tszyu is going to go?
Yeah, look, I was being offered a fight with him after the Charlo fight, but then COVID kicked in and things was getting awkward. So it was sort of it was one of those things where we sat down and we had a look at it, and I felt pretty confident about him anyway, and I really do feel like Tim will get a good win there to showcase his ability for sure.
Yeah, I think it'll. I think it'll probably go. You might get a late stoppage. I mean, this Gausha fight has never been stopped, but I think that Tim, with his body shots, which are ridiculously ferocious, I think he might get him in the later rounds. So I look forward to it. Bit disappointed he couldn't get Bakar and Mazaliev or any of those other higher guys, but he's got to fight who's in front of him, I suppose. So.
Oh, look, if you're going to America for the first time and you're doing that trip and that travel for longer rounds, I think it is smart to kind of not go right in all in. You know, I do think that opponent is very smart, especially where he is. He's mandatory for the WBO right now. A win doesn't help him. A loss would destroy him right now. So
that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah. So it's a good opponent for what it is, for sure.
Yeah, we've discussed it on the channel. We're like, couldn't get someone ranked in the top 15, but you make a solid point. You know, a loss will kill him. A win does nothing for him, which is right. A win just keeps him active. So, I mean, it gets a chance to sharpen his blade. That's for certain, because you know his skill set is there. There's no doubt about it. He's getting better with every fight. I mean, his fight against Inoue was pretty solid. You know, and he went the full 12 rounds, which is what he needed. So it's going to be good. So if he gets past, if he does get that title shot, well, first question: how do you think Charlo Castano 2 is going to go, and how do you think Tim would go against the winner of that?
Right. Well, you know, now you have me. You know, it's don't know who's going to win that fight. I do think Castano might edge it, but I don't think he's going to get the decision over PBC. You know, you've got Castano there who has 2 draws against 2 PBC fellas, right? And you know, 2 fights that he probably that the crowd and the audience definitely thought that he won. It's hard to get a decision against the PBC fellas. You know, if you haven't been with them from the start. You know, like those in-house fighters have been, sort of likes of Lara and Charlo and that, and then you know it's. I don't feel good about it in terms of if Castano wins, he'd get the decision. I don't feel like he would. I feel like Charlo would get it. So I feel like he'll probably edge that out regardless if he wins it or not. And then you know, I feel like, you know, whether or not Tim can do any damage there or get the win up. You know, I don't know if he'd get the decision. Just my general feeling about it. You know, unless he obviously got a TKO or a knockout, but I don't feel good about it. But that's just my perspective. And you know, I've been around the world and I've seen what it is with scoring and who's in with who and all these types of things. And this is boxing, unfortunately. We've seen what happened to me over in Mexico. Yeah,
well, we all saw that. That was a joke. That was a clear robbery. So.
And also when I fought Jamal Charlo, you know, the one judge didn't give me any rounds. You know, where you know, I clearly want to go a few anyway. So, you know, you've got that to contend with also. So, you know, unless there's some sort of a, I don't know what needs to be done, but I hope he can get over and do the business, and yeah, I hope every fighter who wins their fight gets a decision, but unfortunately not in boxing. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I'm about to say I don't see Tim getting the win either Charlo or Castano, but then again he has to prove that in the ring. So, and I've been pretty vocal about that. So, but we'll move on to more pressing matters in Australian boxing. George Kambosos, who took out the unified lightweight title and did one of the greatest wins of Australian boxing history. You know, fantastic win. Who do you think he's going to fight next, and how do you think it's going to go? Because I think it's leaning towards Lomachenko now. Something's going on with Haney. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I thought it was rock solid it would be Haney in Australia, but now the tide seems to be turning. So who do you think out of Haney and Loma who's going to get, and how do you think it goes?
Yeah, look, I did initially feel Haney, but everything going back and forward, I see their tweets, and they're both talking it up like they're willing to fight. But something's happening in the background. And, you know, that's probably the most important thing is what's happening in the background, because those guys are the ones that make the decision. Fighters always want to fight, always. There's no fire ducking any other fighter, you know, for the most part anyway. And it's always the background negotiations to see what suits who. So you would think it would be Devin Haney, and that he could sort of get that other sort of belt that's there, but you know, like you said, Lomachenko, if you beat Lomachenko again as well, there's no doubt Kambosos is unified world champion right now, not a doubt, and he done brilliantly, and hats off to him because he's so focused. You just knew by him for years, the way he spoke about it, that he was going to be a world champion, or that he was going to come very, very close. And what he did that night was he just backed up everything that I was feeling about him, and many other people too. So hats off to him. But if he was to beat Lomachenko, it would be an even greater win than Devin to get rid of that other sort of belt. And it's funny how that works, that whole franchise belt and normal belt, but overall, he beats Lama. That's it. It's unquestionable either way. So that'd be a great fight. I'd love to see that in Australia. How exciting to watch the Matrix and our own George Kambosos fight off for the greatest honours of one boxing division. So hope that happens, to be honest. I did think Haney first and then that, because I do think it's a I shouldn't say easy, but I do think he beats Devin much handier. But you know, this is boxing and greatness is on the line, and I hope he can get Lomachenko.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Haney fight is an easier fight for George. And I think that he would put the pressure on Lomachenko and do the same thing that Lopez did to him, which would just be gut punch him and put the pressure on him from straight away. Yeah, I do agree that Haney would be an easier fight for George, and Lomachenko would be the ultimate fight. But you know, we've got to see if they can both get it done. But you know, it's just something I hope it does happen, because we'd love to see a huge stadium in Australia pack it out. I mean, hopefully every man and his dog rocks up to that one. But more pressing matters, back onto yourself. So if you can get this victory, and if you can get the IBO belt, what do you think that will do for your career now that it's fair to say you're in the last? Like how much further do you think you're going to keep going?
No, you're right in that regard. For me, it's just about hitting a few goals now. I want to feel that strap around my waist, a world title championship belt. And, the IBO, it's there with other belts, and it's usually with the unified champions and that. And, they've had some great champions in IBO as well.
They have.
What I heard is maybe Ring Magazine may not rate it, but, if it's good enough for Zandy Lara, and it's good enough for GGG, and it's good enough for all the unified world champions that were at my weight in the last few years, but it's certainly good enough for me. And then, after that, I would be trying my best. I'd probably go back to Ireland and have a fight. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I would be looking to get my hands on another champion, whatever way that looks like, and go all in to become a unified champion. And, but like I said all along, at this point in the game, if I was to lose again, I'd be done. So I'm treating every fight like it's my last, and training the house down like it's my last, and I think that's bringing out the best of me now. So this chapter is coming to an end. It could go on for, who knows? If I was to win my next 10 fights, I'd still be boxing, but if I was to have a loss, I think that'd pretty much wrap it up for me.
Well, don't forget, Sam Solomon won his first title at 40, so age isn't really no barrier. So
it's no barrier, but mate, I have other goals I want to complete in life. I want to go into business. I want to enjoy that life too. I've been boxing from the age of 5 or 6. After a holiday, my body starts to recoup, and I start to feel, and I think to myself, what would it be like to feel not tired all the time? I'm with the kids running around the house there, demanding more of my energy too. I think maybe it's time for me to show up a little bit more as more of an energetic, even though I do my best. But there's just a couple of little questions like that I just kind of need to answer for myself. But again, like I said, I do want to hit those goals first, and I will go all in over the next, year or two, and do what I can do, and then probably sail off into the sunset.
Yeah, that's fair enough, mate. I mean, when I left the army, I was the same story. You're a bit older now. You're a bit broken down. You can't do the same thing as you could when you were younger, and that's just life. But to get your name with a WIBO belt around your waist, you join the names of Daniel Gill, Anthony Mundine, Lester Ellis, Victor Chinian. There's no shortage of Australian Lenny Zappa-Vinya. There's no Zach Dunn. There's no shortage of Australian boxers that won IBO straps, and they add your name to it would be fantastic. So
yeah. Yeah, no, I tell you one thing. I'd be happy. I'd be happy to get that shot now. To be honest, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Daniel Gill. Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's sort of one of those belts where you had a bit like you heard a little bit more about it as two guys fighting off for that belt itself. For the back about a decade ago or 5-6 years ago. Recently, it's sort of been with all the rest of the belts with unified champions. You know.
Yeah, not too many people have made a stance with the IBO. I mean, in the last probably 20 years, Danny Green's really the only one I can think of that actually made a stance with the IBO belt. Everyone else already had someone else with it. So, yeah, I mean, Triple G always had the WBA. Klitschko always had his. AJ. Who else is up there? There's plenty. You're right. They normally had an IBO belt with something else. Very few of them were standalone champions. So. But it's still nothing to be sneezed at. It's a world title.
No, Jeevers, no. I'm just talking about the situation. But like I said, I'd love to have it on my waist on the night and on my mantelpiece for life. So.
Yeah, exactly. And once you get it, they can't take it away from you. So.
That's it.
Exactly. Well, we appreciate your time here, mate. All the best in your fight on March 2nd against Wade Ryan, the IBO super welterweight eliminator. I can't wait for the fight, mate. Good luck to you, mate. And once again, thanks for talking to us, Dennis.
Thank you very much, Jason. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you.